Welcome back to Retro Lunacy 2019. I continue to serve as your chronologically displaced host, Jessica. We're, of course, joined by, unfortunately, as of this recording, still broken Game Gear.
Which, as you notice, I'm still broken. Thanks a lot.
Okay. We're gonna deal with it. But for now, did you figure out a name for yourself, by the way?
No, I'm too sad to think about that.
Not yet? Okay. Well, just because I'm the writer of the show doesn't mean that should be totally on me. Oh, whatever. We'll finish that discussion later. Oops, before I knock over the props. And of course we have VMU, our sentient VMU from the real timeline here in 2019. And chilling down there is Jessica Saturn. I think that's probably like the smoothest way we can refer to her. You know, the version of me that somehow projected her consciousness across dimensions and it ended up in my Sega Saturn. And she really enjoys having things in the cartridge slot because apparently she had one on her human body before being disembodied. Hey, this isn't necessarily a family show, but this is supposed to be more of a wholesome episode, so you just chill out.
Excuse me, how do you think families are made in the first place?
I guess that's as much chill as we're gonna get from her this episode. But as you have probably surmised from the artifacts we have here in the Retro Space Library and Arcade, this is all about Turtle Power. Well, I also hope you figured that out from clicking on the episode. You know, I hope you actually would read the name of the in the title card before clicking on something. But you can say what people do in the bad timeline on the internet, the nets. So, unlike what some of you are probably expecting and or are used to from my transmissions from space, although there is a video game playing and one on display, we're not playing a video game today. Something you might need to get used to, at least a little bit more. You know, video games will still be a big part of the channel. You know, we got a lot of time out here in space, so there's a lot of gaming. And, it is an arcade and a library, but, today we're leaning into some other things. And might as well go ahead and crack this one open. What are we drinking? What am I drinking? Voodoo Ranger Tropic Force. It's an IPA, so that's more my speed. Last episode we did a Pilsner, and that's not really my thing so much, but... Just look away, Mikey. You're a teenager. You can't drink yet. Plus, I don't know what this would do to part human, part turtles. But... Oh, that's good. I'm sure at this point, if all you've watched are the 2019 episodes, you probably think I'm a lush, but I guess I couldn't blame you for that. But alright, before we get to the main presentation, though, we're going to have another guest on the show for an interview. Now, the transmission, again, is, we're talking about the distance between Saturn and Earth, and we're also, like, crossing dimensions and timelines here, so, it may not be the most stable signal, but we'll work on that as we get future guests to interview on the show. But today we do have Michelangelo. Not just the action figure, but, we got Mikey. So, bear with me as I get the transmission set up here. I think we have at least a semi-stable transmission here. So welcome to the show, Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. It's me.
So did I interrupt something? Are you ordering a pizza right now?
I want a large, thick crust with double cheese, ham, pepperoni.
Yeah, okay, you're okay. Somehow, we interrupted the transmission of your space-time continuum while you were ordering pizza. So sorry about that, bud. But hey, when we do our order of space pizza, we'll make sure to leave the anchovies off. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Well, I mean, I'll explain how we do get pizza deliveries here in space, but you know, as amazing as the technology is, it's going to take more than 30 seconds.
Time's up. $3 off.
Well, okay. Alright, so you were actually counting the seconds, okay. Well, we don't use bucks or, dollars out here in space. Because the rules are, once you're in the future and in space, all currency just turns to credits. But I don't make the rules, I just follow them. Well, sometimes. Okay, buddy, well, it looks like we must have, little cross-dimensional miscommunicado here. I think we caught you at a bad time when you're having dinner, but, maybe next time we'll have, like, a more formal, interview. And maybe some of the questions that our audience would like to ask, those burning questions that you people in the bad timeline would like to ask of someone in the past in another dimension. I don't know how this works, it just works. So, are we cool, Mikey?
Pork rind?
Pork rind. Yeah, well, pork rinds and beer. Well, okay. Alright, so that wasn't, the smoothest, or most, stable interview of all time, or all dimension, but, hey, give it up for Michelangelo for, taking a few seconds away from his pizza order, and the pork rinds he was munching on while waiting for said pizza. Through the magic of, Space Tablet, we finished our order for space pizza. So, hopefully, we'll get that before the episode is up. We'll see. So, without further turtle ado, let's get to it. We're going to do a coloring page. You heard correctly. I've barely had any beer. And I'm hiccuping. Yes. Yes.
Wow, you're a featherweight.
I guess that's fair, considering your backstory. I guess it's fair for Game Gear to make fun of me a little bit for my hiccups. Out here in space. Space hiccups. Alright. Well, we're gonna roll the introduction of the show, and then get to it.
You know, your own imagination is far more wonderful than any computer could ever be. You know why? You're a living human being, and a computer is just a machine. Human beings are far more wonderful than machines. Let's go set up our own neighborhood of make-believe model in the real kitchen and think about it.
Alrighty. Well, here we are, finally. I've been saving this for a hot second here. On a visit to Earth a while back. Actually, got this at a Pizza Hut. I thought was, well, you know, that was quite appropriate. So, I figured, also to get additional use from my own channel footage, I wanted to see if we could, get this colored, or at least mostly colored, before my playthrough of Fall of the Foot Clan on Super Game Boy concludes. So I'm going to color this with some oil pastels, partly because that was what was most immediately available. I think I've got some colored pencils left that I'm not sure, and I'm confident even when I find them, they're probably in disarray, and I'm not even sure if I have a sharpener out here in space, so... Plus, I like the way these look, and it's less common than what you would probably see for one of these here coloring pages. So Michelangelo's the only one firmly established. So the other turtles' belts are covered, and in the classic turtle cartoon renditions, they physically don't look much different from each other. It was pretty much had to rely on the bandanas to visually tell them apart. So anyway, we're gonna get the obvious parts out of the way here and get the green filled in. Yeah, green, grün, verde. As I continue to butcher the other languages of Terra. And I am sorry to my friends in other nations. So I'm not going for, you know, perfection here, just keeping it relatively clean. Yeah, I'm probably gonna bleed over a little bit because it's not like super fine of a tip here that I'm working with, but the outlines are so thick that it's less obvious if you go too far outside the lines. But the interesting thing about coloring pages to me is kind of like, I mean, I know they're aimed at kids, but you know, if if you're of any age and someone tells you like, oh, you're too old or too whatever else to do a coloring page, well, they're full of shit. And they've lost all sense of fun and imagination. They probably live a very sorry life as an adult. They're probably a stockbroker or something. But anyway, what I find interesting about the coloring pages is that, well, it's like a taste of, like, comic book collaboration, for one thing. Because, you know, in a lot of instances, you look at the credits of a comic, and, like, one person did the inking, and then maybe somebody else did the colors. So, you know, it's a collab. So in that sense, when you do a coloring page, it's like you're getting to remotely collaborate with the artist who did the sketch, or inks, outlines, however you want to put it. But I think it also helps, I mean, young artists in particular, but really any artists. I think it's useful to know how to work within boundaries. Because even in my case, you know, jumping between timelines and dimensions, like, you know, our existence is defined by boundaries and limitations. But the artistry comes from knowing how to stretch those limitations, what you can really accomplish within them, and then those instances where you can break beyond them. Alright, so since Mikey was our guest of honor today, we'll finish him first, so. And we'd like to thank Michelangelo for cross-dimensionally participating in Retro Lunacy 2019. But we do have the other turtles here with us today, so. Okay, we should have a decent orange here. That says vermilion hue. Well, there we go, orange. And it says orange in 3 different languages, except for Naranja. Naranja? I feel like I butchered that. Yeah, I got that classic Mikey orange. I think we can probably lightly dab up where I bled over, but I don't think it's super obvious. And then the turtle's gear, protective gear, is just... well, I think it depends on which rendition you go with, because in the movie, it's all like brown protective gear, and then also... well, on the cover of the game, it's brown, but it looks like the screenshots actually it is colored, so never mind. We'll go with the cartoon. Okay, then it would just be the utility, or just their belts, I guess. They're not Batman. I probably picked... oh, Van Dyke brown. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's probably too deep of a brown, but... we'll just finish that one, and then... do we have I have gray. Buckles kind of have a silvery finish to them. So that should do. And for the pizza, the little pepperonis are just black, so we'll put a little bit of yellow cheese detail here. And let's get a lighter... can we get a lighter kind of... yellow ochre? Yeah, that's probably a good pizza crust. Oh yeah, look at that. That's a pizza crust color if I've ever seen one. Yeah. Okay, and then let's assume there's a little bit of pizza sauce coming off the edge just there. Okay. Probably can't see that from your vantage point. Okay. And then the shells in the cartoon have a kind of a yellowish... Well, it's not yellowish, it is yellow, but we don't want to give it, let's see, what did I use for the pizza just now? Okay. There's yellow, and then there's lemon yellow. Let's see how this lemon yellow looks. Okay, that's a bit too bright in my opinion. Let's do the... That's still kind of bright. Do I have a... Rolls? Here's yellow-orange. How does that look? Hmm. Well, we'll just say Mikey got some pizza sauce on his shell right here. Which is not, all that far-fetched, so... It's okay, buddy. Yeah. Okay, so that basically finishes Mikey. And so then we have a little bit of creative liberty here. Basically decide which turtle is which. It doesn't seem to matter, and they all look really happy, so it's not like Raph, who's usually the Angie boy, being super obvious, but they don't have any of their weapons. But it's usually Raph and Mikey that get paired off. So, we'll make Raph right here. Yeah, that's a nice solid red, let me tell you. I'm looking at the timer here, and based on the gameplay footage, it does look like Past Me is going... Oh, dang it. Sorry, Raph. We'll just say he got some pizza sauce on his hand. Yeah, it looks like Past Me is gonna finish Fall of the Foot Clan before I finish coloring this in. At the rate I'm going. So, that's okay. I figured 23 minutes, 45 seconds was, decent. Bar to set. Well, thinking of that term, so. Okay, that looks like... Let's see. We said Van Dyke Brown was too dark. Is there a regular brown in my arsenal? There is, okay. But see, that almost looks like clay. Well, that is closer to the tone on the cover of the cartoon box set there, so yeah, we'll just go with that. It's okay, their belts don't have to perfectly match. It's not like their bandanas do. Okay, so bandana a little more fiercely red here. Yeah, so far, so good. Okay, let's use... We said we wanted to use the lemon yellow for the pizza. Yeah, and we got that beautiful yellow... Wait, no. Yellow ochre! That's our pizza crust. Oh yes, look at that crusty pizza color. And we get a little pizza sauce here. Oh yes. Yes. There's also something kind of satisfying about the way that oil pastels just roll onto the page here. I mean, I've also enjoyed using color pencils, but I really like these things. And I don't know how obvious it is on camera. I mean, I'll show you so far. If that gives it more of a comic book kind of, you know, it's like, because the color is kind of like rolling onto the page, whereas color pencil, I feel like you can see more of the lines. And, you know, it could still look great, at least, but from my personal experience, I like the way my coloring comes out with the oil pastels more. But it depends on what I'm doing. Obviously, for, like, super fine color detail, I want to get a nice sharp pencil in there, but... This feels kind of like halfway between color pencils and painting. It's also just something really cathartic about doing this for y'all. Well, even, you know, on my own time, obviously, this is really enjoyable, but, like... You know, I've had this episode planned for a long time. I've held onto this coloring page for a long time. I mean, not a super long time, but I feel like it's been since... Has it been since last year? I feel like it has, actually. Like, I knew I didn't want to just, like, immediately color it and put it on the wall. Like, I was like, I want to make a special event out of this. I feel like it was kind of extraordinary for me to be in that Pizza Hut at that time and thinking about what I was thinking about at the time, and just seeing turtles manifest there, and it was like I felt like I'd stepped out of time for a bit. And this was really before discovering, you know, the confluence, time, space, and dimension. Here in orbit of Saturn. So. That's just so smooth. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay. So, what did we say? We said regular, gosh. Speech impediment time, activate! And... shells. Oh, we forgot to top a Raph's head. I'm so sorry, buddy. Okie dokie. Pretty much got Raph and Mikey. Hold on. Wait. I think this yellow is just really reflecting a lot of light. So let's add a little bit more to their shells. There we go. That should That looks better, right? Okay. Well, we're approximately halfway through. There's some other things I want to add, but I don't want to spoil that, so... Oh, we got ad alert anyway, so... Perfect timing. So we'll be back after these wholesome messages.
Off in the distance, the game's dragging on. There's strikes on the batter, some runners are on. Then suddenly everyone's looking at me. My mind has been wondering, what could it be? They point to the sky and I look up above, and a baseball falls into my glove. I play right field. It's important you know. You gotta know how to catch. You gotta know how to throw. That's why I play in right field, way out where the dandelions grow.
As a proud sponsor of Little League Baseball, Pizza Hut welcomes all the kids who make it great.
Making it great.
Well, hasn't this been wholesome and fun? Just checking in with y'all. You know, in the style of the show we're doing, we gotta have a little intermission here, just a little check-in, little break. Also, I suspected that it was just about time for the aforementioned delivery of space pizza. Was I right or was I right? So, pardon me while I go to the retrieval hatch, because there was like a... What's the easiest way to describe it? Effectively like an electromagnetic net that captured the module containing the space pizza. I guess I should also establish, as I almost break the chair somehow. I don't know what happened just now. Maybe the artificial gravity fluctuated temporarily. But yeah, in the confluence, in the possible future of the After Terra universe, which I created, but am also now partially crossed over with, because, we're on a prototype version of the hero ship from that story. In that possible future, which, unfortunately, we seem to be heading closer to that than I feel comfortable with, but anyway, they have magnetic acceleration relays, which are mainly used for ships, but can be used in certain cases for, certain kinds of cargo. And some really daring entrepreneurs have attempted to use these as food delivery services. It's not faster than light travel, not even close, but, being propelled through one of these relays can get you to point A to point B way faster than conventional propulsion. But they work between the lanes of gravity between the different celestial bodies of the solar system to kind of take advantage of kind of the currents, if you will. Kind of utilizing the gravity of one body for extra slingshot effect, and then, electromagnetic propulsion. There's all sorts of effects. Anyway, get through the technobabble already, they say, yeah. I get it. Especially you seem to be... If it doesn't involve sex of some kind, you seem especially uninterested, but... Yes, essentially, what has happened is a glorified pizza box has been placed in a protective capsule and fired through one of these relays with a piping hot pizza. And essentially the ship has caught it with a combination of its own, like, I guess sort of an electromagnetic grapple net, sort of, but also taking advantage of the way it was shot and the trajectory, like Saturn's gravity was already naturally kind of catching it. So, yeah. Anyway, I shouldn't leave the space pizza waiting in the retrieval hatch any longer, so I'll be right back. Yep, that's space pizza. It just happens to have logos from the Earth of your timeline. Shh. And coupon. Ooh. We like coupons around here. So now, through the magic of space, time, dimension, and editing, Jessica will now finish. Past Jessica. Let's not get too carried away with referring to myself in the third person just because I'm chronologically displaced. Hey, shut up. Yeah, now she'll get to enjoy some pizza while finishing the coloring page. So, let's get back to her. Well, it's almost as if this show was planned that way. But, we got the space pizza. Right after the ad break. And then I thought I would, just throw on another one of my videos, getting more use out of, I'm pointing the wrong direction. Here. That way. My Turtles 3 playthrough, which is, as of this recording, my most popular video on the channel. I think that was just dumb luck, but... Yeah, beating Turtles 3 on NES with no continues. Glad I documented that. For the record. Out here in space. Okay, so decision. I'm going to, I feel like Leo is the one that would be like... I mean, when it comes right down to it, none of the turtles, even Raph, he just doesn't want to admit it, are not afraid of showing affection. But Leo is probably like the one to be most like, I got you, bro. Hand on the shoulder. Between him and Donnie. So. Cobalt Blue. Q. Oh yeah, that's a good Leo. Blue right there. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh, and I hadn't used this one yet. It's super fresh. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay. Now, truth be told, I've already had quite a bit of the space pizza. Because, I wanted to enjoy it while it's hot, so... Plus, I have a real thing about not getting any of the treasures here in the Retro Space Library and Arcade Greasy. Like, I'm especially particular about handling controllers after having eaten. Like, I'm a real stickler about that, so... So yeah, now that there's nothing, like, above Leo's head here, that's... I think that's a bigger test of, like, staying in between the lines for the good of the piece. Oh, it's so smooth. Happy little turtles. Backs of their shells, that's where we go back to. Brown. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's belts. I think that's like just the very beginning of his leg there. Okay, we have Leo. And through process of elimination, here's Donnie. Here's Donnie. Okay. Oh yeah, that's a good purple. Yeah, that is perfect for his bandana. Just accidentally went into his eye a little bit there. Made him look a little angry. That's okay. We'll fix that. Well, kind of hard to... Not sure if a pencil eraser can really, like, get rid of that, but... Just barely has a little bit of his gear here. I don't want to go... This brown's pretty intense. I don't want to go too crazy on the back of his shell here, but... I think this is a good page for a youngster, though. Because, like, it's a nice challenge, because you gotta really pay attention to, like... There's these little things here, like, oh, which part is that? Like, oh, there's, like... just barely part of Donnie's arm right here. You got to account for. And there's just a tiny bit behind Raph's bandana here. Very careful not to mess up your coloring. That's also part of his shell back here. I'm kind of reinforcing the shape of the turtles' faces here with the motions I make on their faces. I don't know how much that really shows up, but I feel like it helps. Alright, there's Donnie. So now we have some creative space here with the pizza. Now, of course, our crust... Where's our crust? Yellow ochre. Here we go. Yeah, gotta get that golden, crispy pizza crust established first. And then this pizza's obviously already been sliced, so I'm going to make the indications of some pizza sauce here where it's been sliced. But now the toppings, I mean, there could just be all pepperonis, but I'm gonna take the liberty of making some happy little sausages here. Just here and there. And then I'll make the indications of some pepperonis. No. It's not super obvious with that shade of brown, but we'll do our... Now this is gonna blend a little bit, but I think that's okay, because, you know, on a pizza, the cheese and the pepperoni grease and the sausage grease all kind of coalesce. It's gonna kind of look orangey yellow. Kind of like my space pizza. And then we'll say that it came on a typical baking tray from their oven, so we'll also give that kind of a silvery finish. I kind of messed up the outline there. Oops. Yeah, is that actually kind of pretty? Like, so now, if the turtles were smaller on the page, like if they were maybe, say, like, that much, I kind of had a vision of, like, rendering the living room or their kitchen behind them, but there's not a lot of room to do that. So there's choices to make. Like, I could put them in, like, a pizza parlor, but they're not positioned in such a way where they're, like, at the table eating pizza. So, we probably just give the indication that they're in their lair. Let's see, we got decisions to make. You gotta figure out what's the framing like. So, we have an indication of the floor. So, vaguely, just say, probably, we'll establish that that is the perimeter where the wall starts. There's not quite enough room for me to put their TV back here. Kind of create the impression of it, but I want to keep this somewhat open-ended, so that if I had an inspiration later before I frame this, then I can make adjustments as needed. But we'll just vaguely give the impression, because they've got, like, in their lair, it's like, you know, mostly brick wall, so we'll just kind of give the... Just gonna kind of give a vague impression of their, like, their living room brick wall back there. I'm just leaving gentle marks that I could easily erase, or if I went over it with something more solid, then you won't really see this anyway. It's just kind of like a framework. But at least, if I decided to do nothing else with it, at least it gives kind of a sense of, it just gives a slight added sense of depth and perspective. And then they have, like, It's like mostly bare floors, isn't it? But then they have like throw rugs and stuff. So we'll say they're in the living room, and maybe they just happen to be like on one of those rugs. I want to say there was like some green ones and some blue ones. So again, we'll keep that just basic, but it just gives just a slight added impression to the shot there. So, but I think I'm gonna leave it like that. I just kind of want to marinate on this and then decide if I want to embellish it further or just go ahead and frame it. But I really like that. I mean, I wasn't necessarily doing anything like super bold or adventurous per se. There's more. Actually, maybe I could put the TV here. Maybe that's the perspective, but let's do that real quick. So we'll just give the impression that, well, but then their couch is like not far from the TV. Oh, well, the layer is always getting like partially destructicated every other episode, so we'll just say that. Plus, they might have more than one TV, so. I mean, the living room TV is the main one, but... But some of the CRTs, I mean, I don't think theirs had wheels, but, some of them did. You could actually, like, move them around, because they're so damn heavy, like, it was impractical to try to lift them up and... Where's the gray? Big-ass antenna box there. But see, I left it vague enough. I could actually just turn that into the coffee table or something, so... I've just kind of given myself the... the framework. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone. So, I'm gonna hand the show back off to... myself. In another instance. One that has finished the space pizza and had more space beer. So, cheers! Thank you for watching me. Color. That was really fun. I'm probably gonna do more stuff like this, because I really enjoyed this, and I hope you did too, so thank you so much. Really appreciate you, joining me on this little coloring adventure. Well, as you can see, some time has passed, and I don't look as tired and haggard as in the rest of the video. That's the problem, when you film kind of just when you have the time. I was in between sleeps while being, like, horribly exhausted, and yeah, probably should have waited until I looked a little less, like, beat up, but, it is what it is at this point. The coloring page has been done, and cannot be undone, so... We're just gonna go with it. But also, it looks awfully illuminated, and you might be like, well, gosh, I thought you were in orbit of Saturn. Well, okay, we may be millions of kilometers further away from Earth than you all are. Or from the sun. Oh, yeah. I haven't even had a beer today, and I stumbled there. That's just fantastic. We're millions of kilometers further away from the sun than you all are on Earth. But that doesn't mean the sun still can't be quite bright. It also, Saturn can be awfully reflective, especially when viewed from certain angles. And the rings, a lot of it's ice, as you should know, ice is very reflective and can also be prismatic, so hey, don't be fooled. We're totally in space, in orbit of Saturn still. The control panel is not here, it's under reconstruction, but we're in a safe place at the moment, so it's cool. And we're extra safe because we have our copy of Ninja Turtles 2 on NES, which still has the pizza coupon, which you think probably not in the bad timeline, but in the good one, I feel like the Pizza Hut that still exists, I think they're chummy enough that they would actually still honor it, but, you know, probably better to just hang on to that. Hey, we did it! We finished a coloring page. Well, mostly finished. Some time has passed. If you skipped ahead just to see the end result, shame on you. Before I frame this, I think I'm still going to maybe turn that into a coffee table. Because I don't think, from this perspective, it quite works as the tube TV, but anyway. I'm still very happy with it. If I never touched it again, I would still look at it and smile. Because I think it's wonderful. And so, thank you for, to Michelangelo, for partially, being in an interview. That's what happens, you know, when you attempt to interview someone, like, cross-dimensionally, and they're not ready for it, because why would they be? So, you know, maybe next time, we'll try to rein it back in and, you know, interview somebody who is in a timeline or dimension which we can partake in a stable way. Which would probably be either your 2025 or the 2019 that I found. So, Game Gear is, sleeping. So I put the Streets of Rage 2 cartridge in, and then just went, shh. It's like comfort food. But thank you very much for watching. I know that was probably for a lot of you an unusual episode, but I really enjoyed it, and I hope you really enjoyed it as well. I understand those of you who might be subscribed to the channel based purely on video game stuff. I mean, it was never meant to be 100% a video game channel, but I also understand if it wasn't quite your thing, but, you know, this is what it is. You know, there will be other kinds of detours like this in the future, so if you're into it, if you're enjoying the ride, and kind of the attempts that I'm making to have a sort of a time capsule of the culture and media that's part of my upbringing and still resonates with me, and I think resonates with a lot of other people, and is a bit of a rock to hang on to in the middle of this storm. Upheaval of change and a lot of mayhem and chaos and negativity in the world, at least the world that you all are in. In 2019, things are pretty hunky-dory, but, you know, we gotta figure out, you know, is one timeline actually more valid than the other? Is there a way to save your 2025 and steer it back on the course that, you know, the good 2019 went? You know, that's for future me to figure out, and hopefully future you to watch and be entertained and maybe a little bit informed by. So, that'll do it for today's episode, and we'll see you in a courtroom on the next episode of Retro Lunacy 2019. Much love. See ya.
what you believe in, you find the strength to do what's right, that's true power.